The average new car on American roads lasts about 12 years. Yet, I've got Toyota customers still driving the same vehicle after 30 years with original engines and transmissions. Last week, a customer brought in a 1997 Toyota Camry with over 420,000 miles, and it needed nothing more than routine maintenance. After 20 years working on Toyotas, I'm done watching owners unknowingly shorten the life of vehicles built to outlast almost everything else on the road. Today, I'm revealing the habits, maintenance secrets, and workshop lessons that help Toyotas reach 30 years without major repairs. Stick around for the final tip, as it costs $0, takes less than 5 minutes a month, and it's the reason my Toyotas quietly reach 500,000 miles. Tip number 9. Never treat coolant like a lifetime fluid. One of the biggest mistakes Toyota owners make is thinking coolant lasts forever. In the workshop, I've seen plenty of engines that could have easily made it past 300,000 or 400,000 miles if the cooling system had received a little more attention. If your goal is to keep a Toyota on the road for 30 years or more, coolant changes need to become a regular habit, not an afterthought. Most modern Toyotas use Toyota's pink super long life coolant, while many older models came with red coolant. Regardless of the color, I recommend replacing it about every 50,000 miles or every 5 years once the vehicle starts aging. Many owners push it much longer because the car still seems to be running fine. That's exactly where trouble begins. Coolant does much more than prevent overheating. It contains additives that protect aluminum, steel, seals, gaskets, and water pumps from corrosion. Over time, those protective additives wear out. The coolant gradually becomes more acidic, and once that happens, it starts attacking the very parts it was designed to protect. The first warning signs are usually small coolant leaks, water pump failures, or mysterious overheating issues that seem to come out of nowhere. I've opened cooling systems on neglected Toyotas and found rust-colored coolant, sludge buildup, and corrosion inside passages that should have been spotless. Leave it long enough, and coolant can begin damaging gaskets and internal cooling passages. That can lead to coolant loss, overheating, misfires, white exhaust smoke, and repair bills that make a routine coolant service look incredibly cheap. Hybrid owners need to be just as careful. Toyota hybrids have a separate inverter cooling system, and that coolant ages too. Ignoring it can shorten the life of expensive hybrid components that cost thousands of dollars to replace. The truth is simple: a coolant change isn't exciting, and most drivers never think about it. But after 2 decades working on Toyotas, I've learned that the vehicles reaching 30 years without major repairs are usually owned by people who never skip the boring maintenance. Coolant is one of those small jobs that quietly protects your Toyota every single day. Tip number 8. Don't ignore your MAF sensor. Over the years, I've seen countless Toyota owners worry about failing fuel pumps, bad injectors, or expensive engine problems when the real culprit was a dirty mass airflow sensor. This small sensor sits just behind the air filter and tells the engine exactly how much air is entering. When dust, dirt, or filter oil builds up on it, the readings become inaccurate, and that's when your Toyota may start idling rough, feeling sluggish, or using more fuel than normal. Just a few months ago, a Corolla owner came into the shop convinced he needed major repairs because the car hesitated during acceleration. 5 minutes later, I cleaned the MAF sensor, and the problem was gone. The good news is that this is one of the easiest maintenance jobs you can do. Every 20,000 to 30,000 miles, remove the sensor and clean it using a proper MAF sensor cleaner. Never use brake cleaner or carb cleaner because they can damage the delicate sensor wires. It's a small job, but over 30 years of ownership, keeping this sensor clean can help your Toyota run smoother, maintain better fuel economy, and save you from costly diagnostic visits. Tip number 7. Keep your battery terminals clean. One of the most frustrating calls I get is from Toyota owners whose vehicle won't start even though the battery isn't actually bad. In many cases, the problem is something much simpler: corrosion on the battery terminals. That white, blue, or greenish buildup may not look serious, but it can block the flow of electricity and make your Toyota act like it has a dead battery. I've seen perfectly good batteries replaced simply because nobody checked the terminals first. A few minutes of inspection could have saved the owner hundreds of dollars and the inconvenience of being stranded. The good news is that preventing this problem is incredibly easy. A couple of times a year, open the hood and inspect the battery terminals. If you notice any corrosion, clean it off with a wire brush and make sure the connections are tight. The entire job takes only a few minutes and costs almost nothing. When you're trying to make a Toyota last 30 years or more, it's often the small maintenance habits that make the biggest difference. Keeping your battery terminals clean won't just improve reliability, it can also help you avoid one of the most common and preventable reasons a vehicle refuses to start. If you made it this far, then consider liking this video, giving it a thumbs up, and subscribing to my channel. This helps me bring you more honest car advice. Tip number 6. Never delay an oil change. If there's one habit I've seen separate the 30-year Toyotas from the ones that end up in the scrapyard early, it's consistent oil changes. Over 2 decades in the workshop, I've inspected engines with 300,000, 400,000, and even 500,000 miles that still ran beautifully. The common factor wasn't luck, it was clean oil. Engine oil is the lifeblood of your Toyota. It lubricates moving parts, controls heat, and helps prevent internal wear. But as oil ages, it becomes contaminated with dirt, fuel residue, and microscopic metal particles. Once that happens, it can't protect the engine the way it should. That's when wear begins to accelerate. I've seen owners lose perfectly good engines simply because they pushed oil changes too far. What could have been a routine maintenance visit turned into a repair bill worth thousands of dollars. For most Toyota owners, staying on top of regular oil changes is the single best investment you can make in your vehicle's future. The cost of an oil service is small. The cost of replacing an engine isn't. If you want your Toyota to still be running strong decades from now, start by protecting the fluid that protects everything else. Tip number 5. Don't wait for a belt to break. Some of the most expensive Toyota repairs I've seen started with one of the cheapest parts under the hood. I'm talking about the serpentine belt and, on certain Toyota models, the timing belt. These belts may look simple, but they play a huge role in keeping your vehicle running reliably year after year. The serpentine belt powers important components like the alternator, power steering system, air conditioning, and sometimes the water pump. When it starts cracking, fraying, or wearing out, it's only a matter of time before it leaves you stranded. I've seen drivers pay hundreds for towing and emergency repairs because they ignored a belt that would have cost very little to replace. The timing belt is even more important. On Toyota engines equipped with one, it keeps critical engine parts moving in perfect synchronization. If it fails unexpectedly, the resulting damage can be severe and extremely expensive to repair. That's why I always tell Toyota owners to inspect these belts regularly and replace them according to the maintenance schedule. A belt replacement may feel unnecessary when everything is working fine, but it's far cheaper than dealing with a breakdown or major engine repair later. Tip number 4. Replace spark plugs before they become a problem. One maintenance item that Toyota owners often forget about is the spark plugs. They may be small, but they're responsible for igniting the fuel that powers your engine. When they wear out, performance, fuel economy, and reliability can all start to suffer. In the workshop, I've seen 2 common mistakes. The first is replacing spark plugs far too early and wasting money. The second, and much more expensive mistake, is installing cheap aftermarket plugs instead of the ones Toyota designed for the engine. That's when rough idling, misfires, and check engine lights often begin to appear. Most Toyota Iridium spark plugs can last around 120,000 miles, although some engines require replacement sooner. That's why following the maintenance schedule for your specific model is so important. Here's another lesson I've learned from older Toyotas. If your vehicle is more than 10 years old, don't ignore the plug simply because the mileage is low. Over time, spark plugs can seize inside the cylinder head, turning a simple maintenance job into a costly repair. The Toyotas that reach 30 years without major problems are usually owned by people who replace spark plugs on time instead of waiting for trouble to show up. Tip number 3. Don't ignore the PCV valve. One of the smallest parts on your Toyota can have a surprisingly big impact on engine life. I'm talking about the PCV valve. Most drivers never think about it, and that's exactly why it often gets overlooked for years. The PCV valve helps control pressure inside the engine and routes harmful gases back into the combustion process. When it's working properly, the engine stays cleaner and runs more efficiently, but when it becomes clogged or stuck, pressure starts building where it shouldn't. Over the years, I've seen neglected PCV valves contribute to oil leaks, increased oil consumption, rough idling, and sludge buildup inside otherwise healthy Toyota engines. The owners were worried about major engine problems, but the root cause was often a tiny part that costs very little to replace. The good news is that checking it is quick and easy. If the valve no longer functions properly, replacing it takes only a few minutes and costs far less than most routine repairs. When you're trying to make a Toyota last 30 years or more, it's important not to focus only on the big maintenance items. Sometimes the smallest parts play a major role in protecting the engine for the long haul. Tip number 2. Replace your air filter before it chokes the engine. One of the easiest ways to protect your Toyota for the next 30 years is also one of the most overlooked. The engine air filter may not seem important, but it's the first line of defense against dirt, dust, insects, and other debris that can enter the engine. I've lost count of how many Camrys, Corollas, and RAV4s have come into the shop feeling sluggish, only for the problem to be a severely clogged air filter. The owner was expecting an expensive repair, but a simple filter replacement brought the vehicle back to life. When the filter gets dirty, the engine has to work harder to pull in air. That can hurt performance, reduce fuel economy, and over time place unnecessary strain on the engine. Fortunately, this is one of the simplest maintenance jobs you can do yourself. On most Toyotas, replacing the air filter takes only a few minutes. The Toyotas that survive for decades are usually the ones that never miss the basics. A clean air filter helps the engine breathe properly, run efficiently, and stay healthy for hundreds of thousands of miles. Secret number 1. Never cut corners on parts. Before I reveal the final lesson, there's one rule I've seen almost every long-lasting Toyota owner follow. They don't just maintain their vehicles correctly, they use the right parts when repairs are needed. Over the years, I've watched countless Toyota owners try to save money with the cheapest parts they could find. Sometimes those parts worked for a while. Other times they caused repeat repairs, poor performance, and headaches that ended up costing far more than the original savings. The Toyotas that regularly reach 300,000, 400,000, and even 500,000 miles usually have one thing in common. They're repaired with genuine Toyota parts or high-quality OEM equivalent components. That's because these parts are designed specifically for the vehicle. The fit is correct, the performance is predictable, and the durability matches what Toyota engineered from the factory. When you're trying to keep a Toyota on the road for 30 years, every repair becomes part of a much bigger picture. Saving a few dollars today isn't worth risking reliability tomorrow. The owners who get the longest life from their Toyotas understand a simple truth. Maintenance keeps the vehicle running, but quality parts help keep it running the way Toyota intended. That's one of the biggest secrets behind the Toyotas that seem to last forever. If you're enjoying this video, consider watching the next one, where I'm guiding Toyota owners with my honest experience to cut breakdown cost.